Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to the Flatout Racing Network's coverage of the continuation of the 65th season of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Barebones Racing Series. Coming off an exciting season opener last Monday night at the Kansas Speedway, we're ready for short track racing here this evening at the North Wilkesboro Speedway, and not the repaved North Wilkesboro. No, this is the old, worn-out, historic surface. So going to be really interesting to see how it plays into the outcome of tonight's 120 lapper. I'm Seth Cole, being joined by Sean Prime, and Sean mentioned about this racetrack last week. It was going to be an interesting one coming in this early on the schedule. So here tonight for these drivers, are we battling more those around us, or are we focusing more on battling this racetrack and what it's going to bring to the table in terms of grip or lack thereof?
Well, good evening, Seth, and thanks for having me back again. I do appreciate it. You said it. This is definitely race the track, but you got to be aware the people around you are, because people are going to be coming in at different paces, braking at different points. It's such a dynamic track. And you can run real hard here and wear your tires out in 30 some odd laps, or you can try to make them race to the end of the fuel run around 48 or so laps. It's your choice, and the leader's going to dictate that pace. You'll see all sorts of strategies. It's a track that gives you just about everything you want.
We had that season opener last week at Kansas, and we saw a little bit of everything. We saw strategy in terms of green flag pit stops and trying the undercut on fresh tires. We saw a number of drivers be able to work their way forward after not necessarily being all that great on the stopwatch in qualifying. Here today, how much of an opportunity do we see for drivers that may be qualifying outside of the top 10? How much of a track position track is this going to be here tonight?
Well, you can play a lot of strategy here. Again, if we get long green flag runs, last time we raced here, season 62, we had 3 caution flags, and the first one was actually on lap 2. So essentially 2 caution flags, green flag stops. Again, different people on tire strategies versus fuel. You can flip the script. You can be running in the back and get your way to the front. Not easy. There's no shaking that. It's a short track. We had a limited number of lead changes here last time by 6 of them, matter of fact, between only four drivers. 3 yellow flags, lap 2, lap 72, lap 81. So we'll see. I mean, just looking at this track, it has such character. I believe you said that in your initial opening statements. The banking on this version prior to the repave, it's almost like you're coming out of a hole when you're coming out of turn 4 there. The way that banking ends towards the entrance of pit road, which is also interesting, getting onto pit road here at North Wilkesboro.
I think one of the coolest stats you gave right there of the last time that they've raced at this short track is only 3 cautions, which means long green flag runs and opens the door for strategy. Hopefully we'll see the same thing play out here tonight. Jeremy Jeffries coming into this race as the winner from last week, but not the points leader. We stressed last week, and I think we're going to stress it the entirety of this regular season, the stage points that are given out at the halfway point. It'll be the completion of lap 60 here tonight. Because of the fact that other drivers are able to garner stage points last week at Kansas, Jeremy comes into this race, yes, the first winner of the season, but 3rd in points.
And Rodney Solins, who brought his 38 machine to a 2nd place finish, is now 6th in points. It's crazy how much the stage points can matter. Both Jeremy and Rodney had their issues during the race right around the stage break. So I believe both of them got 0 stage points, and that's what makes the difference. Josh Metallic right now coming in as your point leader, and I believe he finished 3rd in the race.
Souped 2nd in points, and I think he's going to be maybe one of the guys to really keep an eye on here tonight. He was fastest in the first practice session. He was fastest in the second practice session. He's starting on the pole, and he's currently setting the pace here in happy hour. So I think, based off the numbers that we're seeing here, at least in the preliminary before we take the green flag, everybody's going to be chasing driver number 11.
Well, we are setting the stage here for, about 16 cautions now, since we stressed the fact of 3. And now we're going to talk about Mr. Jeff Super.
We're putting the commentator curses out early, aren't we?
Exactly. So since you mentioned Mr. Jeff Soup, let's say back to season 62 at this very track, your winner, Jeff Supta. Jeff Supta started. Oh, we used to see him on the pole, sharing the front row. You know, Jeff's a hard charger. He's always up there. Jeff started. Let's see. 21st in the race. Finished it P1.
Wow. So
He
some hope
and
for
I'll
some
give you
drivers that
one.
are starting back there outside the top 15.
And I'll give you one more. How many laps do you think Jeff led in the race?
Let me see. The last one?
That was the most important one. Obviously, he got that one. He led 6 laps. He
Okay.
led somewheres in the 40s for 1 lap and the final 5.
Wow.
Jeremy Jeffries was your most laps led in that race.
And that just shows, as you pointed out, opportunity with strategy to work your way up to the front, maybe there at the close, right place, right time, if the strategy hits correctly. We talked about the fact that Kansas Speedway last week saw Jeremy Jeffries go to victory lane, but you were talking about before we came on the air, some other drivers that had some great runs last week, some great performances, and would be looking to ride that momentum into tonight.
Yeah, for sure. We had an interesting race at Kansas, like you had told us. The top 5, Jeremy Jeffries picking up that win. We got Rodney Sullivan second. Josh Metallic, in fact, as we mentioned earlier, was third. Dave Melson brought it home in fourth, and Terry Bombard brought that home in fifth. Highest climber from the race was Bob LaChance in the 51. He started 35th, moved up to 13th, but he tied. That's 22 spots gained, with a spout in there, I think, for the announcers. But he tied for that with John Godfrey, who also gained 22 spots, 34th to 12th. Fastest lap of the race, Bob LaChance at a 31.913 on lap 68.
And of course, we also want to give a shout out as well. Of course, we talk about the series within the series, usually in every one of the weekly series here in Rolling Thunder Gaming. And Doug Cady ended up picking up the Challenger victory last week and comes in leading the point standings in that category. I do not believe that the 00 is in the field here tonight, so that's an opportunity for a couple of drivers that are second, third, fourth in the standings behind him in that Challenger category, Bobby Farrell, Cy Jones, Bob Dixon, to potentially take the lead in that Challenger Championship going into next week. Another wild card track, as we'll be at the Super Speedway of Coca-Cola. You mentioned about Dave Melson having that good run last week, and that's another driver that I was kind of keeping an eye on here tonight. He was, I believe, in the top 5, around second or third in practice. He's starting on the front row here with Jeff as well. And right now he is second on the board in happy hour. So another driver that's bringing in some good speed this week, trying to build off of his good performance last week at Kansas.
I tell you have a good eye. Seth Dave is most certainly a premier short track racer. He's definitely a force to be reckoned with. Anytime we go to Martinsville, Bristol, to Wilkesboro here for sure, Dave is going to be up on the wheel and up there.
So we talk about this racetrack, talk about the drivers. I would assume that tonight we're going to be talking a lot more about drivers preserving the tires, maybe more so than keeping an eye on their fuel. If they can make it the entire fuel window, great, but they're going to want to keep those Goodyears as much in the green as possible for the duration there. How, when you're a driver at a racetrack like this, especially if you're mired mid-pack, how do you keep your cool to not try and force the issue, try and make a move that maybe the tires aren't prepared for with the grip going into the corner? How do you rein it back as a racer and play the patient game? Because we mentioned about the fact here tonight, we're probably going to see some multi-groove racing. I remember back when this track was last run, the high line, you could actually kind of diamond the corner a little bit, get some nice exit off of the turn. I've seen a number of drivers here tonight in practice get really tight and push up, brush that wall off of turn 2. How do you pull the reins back and settle yourself in, be patient in working your way forward?
Well, the word that we usually preach, as you said it, is patience. I'm going to introduce you to a different word tonight, discipline. It takes extreme discipline, because you can run faster. You can do it. You can go try to battle for that spot, but it's going to cost you, especially if this takes on a green flag look. There's just too many ways to approach it. You want to you can brake early, you can brake late, but you want to get through that center, roll the center, patiently picking up the throttles, kind of scoot it through there and set up the exit, because passing here, you really want to get the run off, make the pass on the straightaway before you get to the next entry.
Well, we've got drivers gritting up here on pit road, awaiting the command to fire the engines. Jeff Supta, as we mentioned, your pole sitter here tonight. All Chevy front row as Dave Melson will line up to his outside. Grant Wesley going to roll off third. Nick Gunther makes his RTG debut here tonight as he'll be on the outside of row 2. Jim Glaude, Ron Haglin back in row 3. Row 4, last week's winner Jeremy Jeffries and Colin Flick will start 8th. Josh Metallic, who leads the points coming into tonight, will start 9th with Jeff Crivello completing the top 10. Ronald Lucet and Randy Waugh, they're back in row 6. Dante Ricky and Andre Charest, row 7. Row 8 finds Terry Bombard and last week's runner finisher Rodney Sullins. Chris Elliott, Dave Robbins back in row 9. And your top 20 completed with Frank Rivard and Jeffrey Elliott. Glenn Harris, Cy Jones back in row 11. Last driver to take time in 23rd will be Bobby Farrell. He shares row 12 with Brian Schilling. Row 13, Bob LaChance and John Godfrey. And making up the 28 drivers to take the green tonight, Dennis McCarthy and Jason Scheck. Green flag waves were underway at North Wilkesboro.
It's a clean start. Looks like Jeff Supta gets away. Grant Wesley is hot on his tail as they look to head down the backstretch now. Looks like Jim Glaude making a move towards the inside, looking to go and take into 3rd place.
He will get that 3rd spot as Melson drops from 2nd back to 4th. I think that's probably something we'll see on future restarts. Drivers that are the leaders wanting that inside line, get that nice launch, that shorter way around the racetrack through 1 and 2. It worked out for Grant Wesley, who moved up a spot from 3rd to 2nd. Worked for Glaude, who moved from 5th to 3rd. And now, for most of those other drivers there, like Melson Gunther, now they'll slot in 4th and 5th position. Caution's out early on here.
It didn't take long. They were looking to get single file there. Let's see why we're coming out for the caution. Ready?
Oh, Bob LaChance, John Godfrey, Bobby
Several
Farrell in
cars
the 92
involved
as well. Whoa, the leaders just came up here on the 7-11. And I think Grant Wesley might have gotten some damage because of that.
Indeed, may have been some contact there.
Let's go back and first see what happened to bring out the yellow. These drivers had all qualified towards the rear of the field. I believe this was around the 23rd spot. Yeah, Farrell gets
looks like
really
it came in
squirrely. Oh no, somebody spun ahead of them, actually.
There was a spin further ahead, and they right around with the looks like Jeffrey Elliott, the 56, was involved, and that caused a big checkup, is what we're seeing there, with the 7-11 and the 92 getting caught up on the tail end of that.
And then right here, everybody trying to figure out where Godfrey was going to go as he was trying to get turned around. Jeff Supta actually got a little piece of him as well with the left front fender.
Yeah, I stand corrected with the Jeffrey Elliott. This actually started even further up with the 21 of Randy Waugh up in, looks like, turn 4. Multiple cars involved.
Yep, gets loose underneath of Jeff Crivello. Chris Elliott involved, Frank Rivard. There was another driver that spun up towards the outside wall. Couldn't tell who that was. We'll try and see if we can figure out who that driver.
I believe that was the 75. Andre Charest was one of those that spun up to the outside. And the 36 seemed to get away clean.
Whew, Rodney Sullins just able to duck underneath.
Might have got a little front end contact. Yep.
Dave Robbins.
Well, I was just going to say, they might look like they want to settle down single file, Seth, but it appears that we got some early activity. But again, we had lap 2 activity the last time we raced here.
That is true. Now, Bob LaChance is behind the pace car. I believe that when the caution came out, he had to actually be behind the pace car at the time, trapped in the tail end lead lap, and now he's coming down pit road, so this will probably put him a lap down. I guess whatever contact Grant Wesley had there with the 711 hasn't affected him too much. He's decided to stay out with track position here in the early going, but Jeff Supta did come to pit lane. I don't know if that was to check and see how much damage he might have sustained on that left front, or is this a tire strategy play?
Well, tires do matter. Track position tends to rule. I thought to check in on the number 4, Brian Schilling. I'm showing him 2 laps down, and the John Godfrey 1 lap down.
I believe that Schilling may have started the race from pit road.
That is correct. He looks like he's getting a lap back right now.
So Bob LaChance and John Godfrey, they were both involved in that yellow. And correct me if I'm wrong, if you're involved in the caution, it makes you ineligible for the lucky dog, at least under that caution period.
Only if you believe you're the cause of the...
Okay.
But there's not a lot of time here, unfortunately, for these drivers to get going without going a lap down to short of the track. So the leaders were upon them, as you saw with the contact with Grant Wesley coming in.
So Grant will restart the leader. Jim Glaude will be to his outside in second, with Dave Melson, Nick Gunther, and Jeremy Jeffries the top 5. I believe we had a total of 5 drivers that came down pit road under that caution period, including Supta, Ron Haglund, Cy Jones, Frank Rivard, and Randy Waugh. So watch for those fresh tires to potentially start cutting their way through the field if we get spread out and into a long green flag run. Wesley gets us back under green. Looks to clear. By the time we get out of turn number 2, he will do so. Glaude will tuck into second place. Battle's going to be for third.
Looks like everybody's trying to get sorted out here and get into decent running order. Still too wide mid-pack. I see Jeff Supta trying to come back around from after his pit stop. 2x2, still going into turn 1. The 95 of Colin Flick and the 10 of Terry Bombard still battling it out side by side. They're going to want to try to get that sorted out. They're not going to want to do that for too long.
Jeremy Jeffries, last week's winner, ahead of the points leader Josh Metallic. That's 5th and 6th. Right behind the debuting Nick Gunther. Dante Ricky had a good run going last week at Kansas, but he ran into some trouble late in that race. Didn't get the
We've
finish.
got a wreck going on the backstretch, Seth.
No caution, as that was down towards the inside. Looks like Glenn Harris and Jeffrey Elliott. Both will continue on, but no yellow, as you see the skid marks there, and apparently the spin was deemed below the yellow line and off the racing surface. So we continue green, at least for the moment, as Jim Glaude looks to close up the gap between himself and Grant Wesley for the top spot.
Looks like they did a good job of getting themselves going, that they're not immediately under threat of losing a lap, because that can happen fast.
But man, I gotta wonder how much they're going to be struggling the rest of this run. That had to have heated up those tires quite a bit, and they're probably going to be dealing with quite a bit of lack of grip here, even in the early going of this run. You kind of don't want that sensation until 10, 15 laps into this.
No, it all feels good now, but exactly 15 laps on, not so much. So we have now, speaking of running them hard, looks like Jim Glaude's giving some pressure to Grant Wesley now, and again, the pace they're setting, 20.579 going by last time for Jim. That's a pretty blistering pace.
If Jim's able to get to Grant's back bumper and starts putting the pressure on him, if you're Grant, you maybe let the 72 go on by, let him burn up his stuff, and try and get him later on in the run. How hard do you fight him here?
That depends. Jim's making a pretty good run. He's running in deep, and he's keeping it low, and he's kind of hustling it the shortest way around. If he can get his exit nice and smooth there, he might get some longevity out of that line that he's running. But if I'm Grant, if Jim wants to make an issue of it up, as I say that, Jim just popped the wall, so we get a little more breathing space.
He's hit the wall a couple of times there off of turn 2, trying to get back to that throttle through the center of the corner, get that nose pointed, and drive off. Much better turn 2 that time for the 72 car as he closes it up to half a car length, almost to the back bumper there off of 4. Left side's down on that yellow line, clips the apron a little bit there. And how much does dirty air come into play if you're Jim Gloud here as well? Obviously, we're kind of seeing him try some different lines on entry, try a little bit lower of an exit, try and get some clean air to the nose there. But at a track as short as North Wilkesboro, does dirty air come into play?
If you get up close under somebody under exit, I think that, dirty air could help you push a little more, especially as hot as this right front tire is getting here at North Wilkesboro. Jim looks like he's doing a pretty good job of cooling them off now, and he's maintaining the gap. And don't look now, but we spoke about him earlier. Dave Nelson's entering the picture.
Nelson coming into this one 8th in points. Looking here at Ronald Lucet and Colin Flick. Ronald 14th in points coming into tonight. Colin is 23rd. One thing about the early portion of the season, if you run into trouble in the season opener, the points are super, super close. So if you can, in the second, third, fourth races of the season, get good runs, consistent top 5s, top 10s, you're going to gain by leaps and bounds up through the points. And so for a number of drivers that maybe didn't have the best of runs last week at Kansas, this is a big opportunity to be able to gain a lot of those points back.
You sure can, and you can start doing that at the stage breaks. That's the way to go. Lap 60 for tonight is the money lap. Pay window is open. The little pay window, or pay slot, as I guess we're going to call it, is open tonight at the conclusion of lap 60, and we'll award 10 points to first place, 9 to second, right up through 10th place, and they make an incredible difference. That's how our race leader, or race winner from last week, Jeremy Jeffries, is 3rd in points after one race that he won.
As we watch this battle for second, Melson closing up on Gloud. Can the fuel window get us to the conclusion of the stage here? Obviously, we run through it. We don't have a yellow flag come out for it, but can we get to lap 60 on what we've got in the tank right now, or are we going to see these drivers have to hit pit road before that?
I didn't check which lap they went to green, but I'm thinking 48 laps. So yeah, they're going to want to get to pit road before the conclusion of the stage. Right now, they're looking like they're not going to make it to the end of this stage. There's action going on all around the track.
Woo, Melson gets really loose on entry, slides up, maybe some contact with Nick Gunther. Jeremy Jeffries closes in on this, and look now as Grant pulls away, they're wadded up from second place on back to 6th. That's Gloud, Melson, Gunther, Jeffries, and Metallic. Throw a blanket over them.
And add lap traffic into the mix. They're starting to catch the rear of the field.
It's the 7 of Cy Jones as they'll go double wide here for 3rd. Oh, gonna try and shoot up the middle there, 3 wide into 1. Cy gonna give a lot of space there through the corner. Allow that side-by-side battle to continue off of 2.
This looks where all the action is right now between the coming again off of turn 4. It looks like they've got single file, but that's just, I say that Nick Gunther looks to move to the inside now of Dave Nelson going into turn 1.
Battle continues for 3rd place. Melson trying to pinch Gunther's Mazda down, gets the wall. Now Jeremy Jeffries will cross to the inside. Momentum lost there for the Wendy's Chevrolet. Now he's under fire, and he's trapped on that outside line, possibly going to get freight trained here. Is Josh Metallic there as well? And from what I'm seeing here from these drivers, tapping that wall off of turn 2, there's no visible damage, so if anything, all it's doing is really stalling their momentum and allowing drivers to dive low and capitalize going into 3. So unless you clobber that wall, I think for the most part, drivers will be okay, up to speed, and able to still compete. You just got to make sure that you don't nail that wall really hard and give yourself damage. I believe it is moderate damage here tonight.
That is correct, and your analysis is spot on there. It's exactly it. This is about as dicey as it gets. We're encountering, lap traffic. We've got guys checking up. We've got guys too wide, and the talent of these drivers, again, abounds because they're all seeing it and they're all recognizing the situation, and while they're racing hard, they're doing it with respect.
Oh, contact! Gloud saves it, bounced off the wall, bounced off Josh Metallic, and the wall saved him to keep it going. Jeff Supta, remember, he pitted under our only caution. He's on fresher tires, not a whole lot of fresher tires than the other drivers, but he's been able to work his way after restarting back in the 19th position. He's now up to 6th.
Guarantee you other drivers are putting that into their notebook right now. We know Jeff is fast here. We documented that at the beginning of the race, but that's definitely, tires matter. Every little bit, it's an advantage.
And you talked about it last week. This season, tires are free, no tire limits, so more and more drivers might fall into maybe using that page of the playbook if we especially end up having some timely cautions here in the second half of this race. But Grant Wesley, he is setting a blistering pace, over 2 seconds back to Nick Gunther, and he's been very quick with the traffic he's caught as well. Just put Jeffrey Elliott a lap down moments ago. Next driver he'd have to deal with would be about 4 seconds up ahead. That's Bobby Farrell in the 92, who running that Adam Petty tribute throwback here tonight. This, of course, 25 years to the day since the sport of NASCAR lost the, would that have been the 4th generation Petty, if I'm not mistaken? Yeah.
4th generation. Lee, Richard, Kyle, Adam, and that is really cool for Bobby to run that tribute scheme tonight. Just sad tragedy. Lost Kenny Irwin Jr. up there at the same track. Not at all that distance time between the two.
35 laps into this race when Wesley crosses the line. We do have our first official retiree from the event. That's going to be John Godfrey. He'll finish in the 26th position. I mentioned at the pre-race that 28 drivers were scheduled to take the green. Only 26 drivers actually officially did. Looks like Dennis McCarthy and Jason Scheck, they were on the grid, but they did actually not grid up. So I don't know if they're getting provisionals or if they ran the track and decided not to take the green flag here tonight and participate, but those are the 2 drivers that you're not seeing out on the racetrack that were listed off the starting grid.
I'm curious to see how this plays out now that we've thought about this. Jeff Supta does not do things for no reason, and I didn't write down the lap for that caution. I was remiss there, but is it possible Jeff can get there on fuel? He's running a heck of a pace on those tires, so getting there on tires may be the challenge in itself, but he's charging through the field, and if this thing continues to stay green, can he get there? Can the people who pitted with him get there to lap 60?
I believe the caution came out on lap 2, and I think we went back green at the completion of lap 6 onto 7.
That's too tall of an order. It can't be done.
Boy, he drove it deep there. Had to check up as he almost got into the back bumper of Dave Melson, and look at the momentum it lost him as now Metallic will go on by. And I've been keeping an eye on the lap times here as well. Supta was running some really good lap times with those fresher tires even in traffic, but I'm looking at the top 2. Nick Gunther has consistently been anywhere from 3 to 4 tenths faster than Grant Wesley, and actually he's just gotten around Grant for the race lead. New leader in that Square D Mazda, Nick Gunther making his debut here tonight in the Barebones Racing Series.
Looks like a friend of yours has come in. He has set sail. Let's see how this holds up over the long run now. Grant is very good at saving his stuff. I guarantee he was not using everything he had out there. He's just trying to maintain, and he's got, longer goals in sight. So we shall see. Don't know a lot about Nick. You'll have to fill in the blanks there.
Oh, I'd love to call him my protege, but that's more fiction than truth. To be fair, he's taught me a lot more than I've taught him. But no, Nick Gunther, he's very good at short track racing. Just a stone's throw away, his home track at Wall Stadium. So he's very well versed in watching, observing, and of course participating here on the Enter 2003 and at short tracks. He's fast everywhere that he goes to, very good at road courses as well. And you talk about the fact, the competitiveness of RTG all the way across the board. I can tell you that last week, finished up the broadcast with you at Kansas, hopped over, we got the yellow out here for the second time. That's Glenn Harris is in trouble. But hopped back to our team speak, and Nick Gunther said, man, I saw the level of competition over there. I want to run in that series. So he spent this week getting set up to participate here tonight.
Well, it certainly shows. Okay, but to see what looks like Glenn Harris had himself a little bit of trouble up there with the wall. See how he got there.
Oh, looks like he might have blinked out, and not sure how he spun around when he reappeared. So he disappears there.
Oh, he reappeared right on top of Brian Schilling.
Oh, yep. Wow.
Just got, by my frame, he got the back end of Brian's. Maybe didn't get the motor.
Let's focus on the 4 here. Watch as he enters into turn 3, and all of a sudden, hello. Yeah, I think you're right. I think he clipped that right rear, maybe.
Not a Kodak moment. He got a Krispy Kreme hood
Not at
ornament.
all. Let's see what this camera shot will show us. Let's go on the back bumper of the 4 car. It's coming out of 2. Suddenly 8 car.
Hello. Action on pit road.
And no surprise, just about everybody coming down pit road here. This so far our longest green flag run. We do have a couple of drivers that I think... Well, actually, I'm not sure what happened to Jeremy Jeffries. He's currently being shown in 19th, 1 lap down. Was he on pit road just before that yellow came out?
I'm looking at that right now. Yes, indeed, he was. He was actually green flag pit stop. He was playing strategy.
Untimely yellow for him. Now, the good news is he is going to be able to take the wave around since he is ahead of the race leaders here. He'll be able to go by the pace car here at the 1 to green. The bad news is he was running in 3rd place before he came to pit road, and all that track position now is going to be lost. And the worst part about it for him is when we saw Jeff Supta work his way forward, he had a little bit fresher tires than everybody else. Jeremy's going to be on equal footing with the rest of the drivers around him, so it will be a tougher sledding for him to make his way back forward to where he was running prior to the caution.
Unfortunately, that's correct. Everybody else is going to go back and get extra service. It looks like the 4 is going to be on pit road this time by 2.
And it looked like, if my scoring is correct, Nick Gunther, who was the leader at the time of that yellow, speeding on pit road, so he'll be at the tail end of the field. Going to be some fast cars at the rear that are going to have to try and work their way forward now as Grant Wesley, Jeff Supta going to be the scheduled front row here for this upcoming restart. And there you see the Lucky Dog drivers coming up on the outside. Andre Charest, Bobby Farrell, the first 2 drivers 1 lap down. So that will have us with 20 of our remaining 25 drivers on the same lap as race leader Grant Wesley, who has led 37 circuits so far here tonight.
So we're setting up for 13 laps to halfway with a whole bunch of fast guys coming from the rear. Okay.
And this kind of goes back to last week, right? You talked about why aren't Rodney Sullins and Jeremy Jeffries, who finished 2nd and 1st last week, why aren't they leading the points? Because they had those problems just prior to the completion of the stage, the halfway point last week at Kansas. Here we've got 2 drivers that might be missing out on stage points because of an issue on a pit stop or a caution just before the halfway point.
2 by 2. Looks like we've got a couple of guys. Oh, trouble already. Looks like the 21's around and some heavy contact in the backstretch.
Caution out for the 3rd time here tonight. Randy Waugh, Jeffrey Elliott.
I believe that's 2 of the cars that were involved in the initial incident. So there was a big checkup involving them.
And you don't want to see these cautions if you're Gunther or Jeffries, because every one of these laps that tick away under yellow is 1 less lap that you're able to try picking up spots under green. Those stage points slip away the further and further you get towards that 60th lap.
That's what happened to Jeremy actually at Kansas last week. He had some trouble right before halfway. Looks like the 21 just got into the hospital wobble there, and around she went.
That's the 2nd restart we've seen that 21 get really squirrely through the center of the corner. Cold tires coming into play maybe there in the early stages?
Absolutely. You know, this can happen on entry usually. You know, you'll brake real hard, and if you unload too quickly on the brakes, you can get that back end coming around. But this looks like at almost the 2nd apex when he was gassing it up and he ran up on the car in front of me. He had to get out of it abruptly, and same effect. He unloaded it and it came around.
A couple of other drivers getting bits and pieces of that. The 36 of Jeff Crivello. We'll find the 56 here of Jeffrey Elliott. See what kind of contact he got out of this. Is nowhere to go. 21 coming down to his path. Boy, Brian Schilling. Whoa! he had to bob and weave, and then all of a sudden that pit road wall was coming up awfully quickly. He was just able to get to the right side of it. Good thing there's a bright red barrel to show where that wall's at.
There was some excellent collision avoidance by many drivers there. There was not much that the 56 could have done there though. That with the 21 across the track.
Well, you talked about earlier the aid of Glenn Harris appearing in the back bumper of Schilling not being a Kodak moment. This was. Watch this. To the left, to the right, back to the left, and back to the right. Look at the wheel. Sawing on that thing.
That's a lot of activity. See that effect there too. It's almost like you're climbing out of the hole there when you're coming out of turn 4 on the inside.
So now an opportunity here. If your driver is towards the rear of the field with this caution coming out, obviously no caution comes out for the stage conclusion, but now different drivers can split with different agendas. Those looking for the stage points, those that are realizing now that we're probably going to have maybe around 5 laps to go here before those stage points are given out, and they're not going to have a shot of getting up in the top 10. Now they're looking that if we go into a long green flag run, come down, top off the fuel tank, gain another maybe 1, 2, potentially 3 laps, and if we go into a long run and have green flag pit stops, you can go a little bit further, and maybe, just maybe, a caution falls your way in the middle of green flag pit stops.
Any way you can get it. Any strategy, somebody's going to try it if there's an advantage to be gotten. We've been doing this for so long together, trying to outflank each other, outguess each other, out-strategize each other, which is just, it's fun to do, and we enjoy doing it every week, but they'll try anything to get an advantage they can. This point, I'm going to stay out as much as I can. I want, if I can get to 10th to get 1 point, that's one more point that matters.
Brian Schilling, who started this race from pit road, got the first lucky dog, and Bob LaChance, who was involved in the first caution. Both those drivers will get back in the lead lap, and 22 drivers on the lead lap now of 25 running. Grant Wesley gets us back under green. Jeff Supta to his outside. Metallic was strong on that last restart, picked up 2 spots, went from 5th to 3rd, and of course, we know that he relies on those stage points. They helped him to have
Trouble
the points
again
lead.
on the backstretch.
No caution as of yet.
38 involved. Rodney Sullins. Looks like Chris Elliott in the number 9 was also involved.
Rodney got into the inside wall with the back end of that race car, it looks like. Last week's runner-up finisher. We do indeed remain green. Kind of shades of what we saw earlier on tonight when Jeffrey Elliott and Glenn Harris got together off of 2, but officials deeming it off the racing surface. 4 to go in this stage. Grant Wesley 4th in points coming into this one. Would love to pick up a stage victory. Supta right behind him in 2nd, and then Josh Metallic, the points leader, in 3rd. And Supta closes up here on Grant. We saw last week at Kansas drivers racing for the stage points like it was the last lap of the race, and we're probably going to see something similar to that here between the 88 and the 11 with 2 laps remaining till the green and white checkered.
Indeed, looks like we're setting that up. Jeff is trying to get under him. He's looking to make the move here on the exit if he can get a run and to make a move to the inside. And here he goes. Oh, the door is closed.
And Grant able to kind of drive it into the corner, kind of arches it to then drive low, chop the nose of the 11, who keeps showing low, and it makes a shallower entry into the corner for him, making it difficult, I think, for him to get back to the throttle through the center. This time by, gonna be the completion of the stage. One last effort there through 3 and 4, but Supta won't be able to get it. Grant Wesley gonna pick up the stage victory tonight.
And there's no green-white or green and white checkered flag for the stage completion. We are continuing racing, so they're just going to settle right back in. Looks like at the end of that, Terry Bombard held off Nick Gunther for the 10th and final transfer or point in the stage.
Ron Hagelin, Dante Ricky, Frank Rivard, Ronald Lucet, a lot of drivers right there that aren't running all that well in the points after last week at Kansas. Well-needed stage points for them to get them back into the hunt for a potential playoff spot, as We continue to run here, as you said, no stage break. We continue green, and battle is on for the lead here. Almost looked like Grant said, all right, you're faster than I am. I want to preserve these tires. I don't want to use them up trying to hold you in my rearview mirror. So he lets Supta on by. Supta will go to the point. Led 4 laps in the early going. Finally gets back to the front after some unorthodox strategy in the early stages of this race, pitting under that first yellow.
Yep, and that's exactly what I would have expected Grant to do. You know, you want the laps led, certainly want to get towards that, you know, extra point for the most laps led in the race, but not at the expense of your race plan and trying to make your goal of getting to the end of the next green flag pit stop. You know, it looks like it's going to be a one-stop race from here if we can keep it green.
Dante right now holding down the 5th position. Frank Rivard in 6th. You were talking earlier here as well about drivers shifting at North Wilkesboro, and Frank was one of those drivers you pointed out that seems to do that quite a bit here. What are the pros and cons of doing something like that at a track like North Wilkesboro?
Al, I have tried it myself. If you're in a situation where you need to get oomph off the turn, you know, you can throw it down there, but it's really situational to the specific lap, you know, especially later in a tire run when you feel like you need to try to get a runoff, maybe to get inside somebody for the straightaway. I have not honestly found it effective myself, but I've seen probably just about 1 or 2 drivers giving it a shot.
I've been watching him here these last couple of laps, and he is not downshifting, at least right now. That car has remained in 4th gear. Mentioned a couple of drivers just before the conclusion of this stage getting hit with speeding penalties, untimely yellows. Gunther has been able to work his way back up to 9th after he had to start the tail end of the field for a speeding penalty, and Jeremy Jeffries is right now in the 15th position after he ended up getting trapped a lap down. Caution came out. He took the wave around, but trying to work his way forward. Also, Dave Melson back here in the 038. I'm not exactly sure how he fell back this far, but he was a driver that was up in the top 5 for the first half of this event, and now is the first car outside of the top 10, holding down 11th.
I think he's been maintaining near there. Terry Bumbard, who finished 10th at the conclusion of lap 60, is right there now, too.
There is Terry, 12th place in that number 10 Camel Dark Horse Mustang. Terry coming into this race 5th in points. Had a good finish last week at Kansas. Had some good stage points to go along with it. As Cy Jones are going to work their way around him. Drivers here just at the latter half of the top 10.
And we got trouble. Looks like we got Nick Gunther and Jim Glaude got together there, and looks like turn 4.
Andre Charest slow there as well. And that will bring out the yellow for the 4th time here tonight at North Wilkesboro. And drivers immediately dive for pit road with it open here. We'll go back and take a look at what happened. Oh, looks like the 55 just drove it in too hot. Realized he was in trouble. You could hear those tires squealing as he was hard on the brakes. But the car just didn't turn after that.
It sure didn't. It looked like he just locked them down. He was looking to go low, and he probably in there just a little bit too hot, and contact with the 72.
Take a look at it again, heading down into 3. Pretty good hit there for the driver's side of the 72, passenger side of the 55. And this caution comes out at a very interesting time, about 50 laps away from the conclusion. I would assume everybody is going to come down pit road here.
If you don't, you're not doing the math right.
No.
This is absolutely the point to be here. And both those cars, while it looks like they took pretty good hits, I think with moderate damage again, unless they got some heavy motor damage, they're probably going to be okay.
Chris Elliott, Glenn Harris. Going to come down pit road this time. I believe that Chris Elliott and Jeffrey Elliott would be
Lucky
the
dogs.
recipients of the free pass. They were the only two cars one lap down at the time. Saw Rodney Sullins. He got bypassed on the racetrack. He made a pit stop to repair damage with the incident that did not bring out the yellow, and he lost 2 laps as a result, lost a third one under that green flag run, so he's -3, Glenn Harris -4, and Cy Jones currently 5 laps down. That's 23rd through 25th.
And still just the one retiree from, that's John Godfrey in the 7-Eleven. I don't apologize for the background noise. We're in a very violent storm at the moment.
And we talked about this, I think, at the close of Kansas last week as well. There are different drivers that there are different tracks that favor their racing styles. Some really love the road courses. Some prefer the 1.5 miles. Some are the short track guys. There's other drivers, they go to those particular racetracks and they don't feel all that comfortable. They go in there with the mentality of, I just want to survive. I want the car in one piece. I'll sell for a top 15. Maybe I'll even take a top 20. There's a couple of drivers here tonight that ran well last week at the 1.5 miles. They're not faring as well here tonight. Sullins being one of them. Podium finished last week, and right now, unless circumstances change, he's not going to even finish inside of the top 20. So you got to think there are certain races here in the regular season that drivers have circled of just survive, get out with as many points as I can, and try and rebound if I have a bad day in following races. I mean, next week, big opportunity for drivers to be able to gain points back that they gave up either last week or here tonight when we super speedway race at Coca-Cola.
Looking forward to that one. It'll be a debut for that track here in the series, as we said before. It should be exciting. We're under green here again, and right away we've got action up front with Jeff and Grant. Going to try to go side by side, but looks like Grant's going to tuck right back in coming out of 2.
Grant tried to time that green flag, jumped a little bit there, had half a car length going into turn 1, but just could not fight that shorter way around the racetrack that Supta had through 1 and 2. Tucks in front of Josh Metallic. Ron Hagelin right behind there in the 111. He's been putting together a solid race after qualifying 6th. Kind of faded back outside of the top 5 in the early going, but now has worked his way back up here, trying to hunt down Metallic for that final spot on the podium, with Dante Ricci right behind there as well. Mentioned about the fact there's the whole bunch of unique manufacturers here in the Barebones Racing Series. We've got your typical Chevys, Fords, Toyotas, but we've also got some Dodge representation, the Nissan of Dante Ricci, and now you can add the Mazda in of Nick Gunther here tonight.
Yeah, I was looking at that 55. I didn't realize it was actually a Mazda. But yeah, you mentioned Ron Hagelin earlier. He has been turning some great laps tonight. He's been under the weather pretty badly lately this past week. So he's toughing it out, back up on the wheel again tonight. And like I said, he's been turning some really fast laps. Was not at all surprised to see Grant Wesley try to make a move there right on the green, but when it wasn't there, to quickly recognize and get right in behind him, because if you're going to make it to lap 120 here, again, that word's going to be discipline. You're not going to do it trying to swap positions every 2 laps and running it out. It's just not going to happen. You've got to manage and pick and choose your battles. If you're going to make a attempt for a pass, it needs to be decisive. No time to lollygag and get stuck side by side.
So where are you at right now mentally as a driver, less than 40 laps from the conclusion? Every possibility that we could run this thing green to the end, but also the possibility that a caution could come out, opportunity to come down pit road, maybe take on tires once again and get ready for a shootout. If you're Grant Wesley, how much pressure are you putting on Supta right now, or are you preserving those tires expecting that you may need them about 35 laps from now?
Oh, if I'm Grant, and I don't want to speak again out of turn for Grant, but I'm thinking Grant is perfectly fine with Jeff leading right now. He doesn't want Josh passing him either, but so he just wants to hang on there, save his stuff, and let him decide when he wants to make a run, if we take that long green flag look.
Well, Grant's already racked up 10 points tonight with winning the stage. Trying to finish ahead of Josh Metallic, who I believe finished 3rd in that stage as well, so points would still be very tight between those two. Josh had 7 points over Grant coming into this evening, with Grant fourth in the standings. Supta was second in points, 4 points behind Metallic, and Jeremy Jeffries, as we documented, he didn't get any stage points after untimely caution for him just about 10 laps before the stage conclusion. Comes into this race third in points, 5 points out of the top position. Of course, got that checkered flag last week, so that means that he's locked into the playoffs, but now he's looking for those playoff points that will help him have a higher seeded standing position when the playoffs are reformatted back together at the conclusion of the regular season.
Exactly. When we conclude the regular season, move to the playoffs, drivers are then reseeded and you receive bonus points for each win that you've gotten, as well as the regular season point leader will get an additional bonus. And those carry through the first couple rounds of the playoff format. And Josh Metallic is the point leader again by virtue of winning the stage at halfway last week. He may have led the most laps, but I have to look that up. But he cashed those full 10 points, and then his third place finish was enough to make him the points leader.
Yeah, actually, I didn't think about it until you brought that up, that regular season championship paying out points as well. And while we've been driving home the importance of the stage points, as far as the championship is decided, also pays dividends into who may eventually be able to get those valuable points for winning the regular season championship.
Well, we talk about season 62 a lot tonight because, our seasons tend to run, 3 a year. So, 65 and 62 will tend to see some of the same tracks. Obviously, Coca-Cola wasn't there. But season 62 championship overall after the whole season came down to 2 points. Literally, the difference between the first driver and the second driver had either led the most laps one race or the other driver did. And that would have been -1, +1, and the second place guy would have won the championship by virtue of more wins. It was that close. 2 points for an entire season.
It's crazy to me because, we document on Thursday nights the Talladega Challenge Series, the amount of changes that have taken place there. Of course, there used to be just the one race finale, and then it got changed to 2 races, and the most points accumulated there end up winning the championship. And one would think, well, the close finishes that we have for the championship by single digits, that's probably now going to be double-digit advantages. And no, we ended up having, if I recall, I think it was the debut season that we went to 2 races in the finale. Richard Martin won the championship by 1 point. We talk about the implementation of stage points here in the Barebones Racing Series, and you think, well, that's going to allow a driver to have a pretty extensive points lead for the championship. But to your point, nope, 2 points for the championship. It's amazing all the different adaptations that take place here in these series, and the championship battles still remain nail-biters right down to the end.
It makes it incredibly exciting. Sometimes too exciting for like an old guy like me. But it is. It gets intense, but it's intense in a really good way. The way we do it here at Barebones. But yeah, you can play it the whole season, and I'll give him his props. That was Jeremy Jeffries who won that season 62 championship, and who was the guy that could have led one more lap in that race? Oh yeah, that was me.
Traffic for the leaders to have to deal with here. Supta gets by, Wesley gets by. Comparing lap times right now, and Supta is about maybe half a tenth quicker than Grant Wesley. Not by much though, and I think Grant was a little quicker getting around that 8 machine of Glenn Harris than Jeff was, so trying to close up the gap a little bit here. If we do end up getting to the end of this race under green flag conditions, we've got some drivers back here like Bobby Farrell, Cy Jones, Rodney Sullins. They're all kind of spread out, but then I kind of look up at this area where you've got Randy Waugh, Jim Glaude, Chris and Jeff Elliott. You're going to start catching multiple drivers, and it's going to make your job as the race leader a lot more difficult. Not to say that the drivers in front of you aren't going to get out of the way, but sometimes it's really difficult to be able to move up out of the way. We saw Cy Jones. I think he actually was just moving up out of the way of Supta, but you overstep that cushion with those old tires. That car wants to slide up into the wall.
It's exactly what it is. And the banking here at this version of Wilkesboro, I hope they carried it over to when they did the repave. I have not been out there to see it, but where the banking comes up in and out of the turns, it has almost that Dover effect. You run a little bit down the hill and up the hill. It has that effect. And if you're trying to overtake somebody, especially on worn tires, you really need your sweet spot. You want to get back on the throttle coming off of 4 and know that you're not going to shoot into the wall. You want to try to, wait and wait. And if somebody else is there, and you've got to put more input into it, it can get dicey.
Moving his way up through the field, Jeremy Jeffries just took the 7th spot away from Frank Rivard. He's got Dante Ricky just up ahead. Somebody just dove onto pit road there, beside Jones in the 7. I was wondering if it was one of our leaders having an issue there, but Cy is multiple laps down and maybe saw that big wave of cars coming up in his rearview mirror and thought, maybe safer to come down pit lane to let them all by me. Is Glenn Harris now under fire from Dante and Jeremy. They'll close this battle for 6th place up even more, and looks like Dante Ricky letting Jeremy on by. And we talked about the fact that there were 3 cautions the last time we were here, only 4 cautions here tonight, and what we just saw right there, what we saw earlier with Grant letting Supta on by, that plays into it as well. The realization that there's somebody behind me that's faster. I'm probably going to end up making a mistake that's going to wreck the both of us if I try playing defense. Let me just let them on by, not force the issue. Maybe I can learn something of the line they're running that will help me in my lap times, but the give and take, even this late in a race, allows us for the green flag runs that we have.
And the realization's coming in right now as we're about to cross that 15 to go threshold of racing back. We've got a uniform 10 to 12 car length gap between our first 4 cars. And now they're looking at the laps to go and saying, it's time to try to move. But can they? Have they used it all? And as they try to make these, 12-car gaps down to 5-car gaps and put some pressure on the guy in front of them, are they going to be able to mount a charge? They're pretty drastically spaced here.
And right now, too, kind of look at the lap times. They're all each about a 10th off of each other. A 10th of a second slower from Supta to Wesley, a 10th of a second slower from Wesley to Metallic, and a 10th of a second slower from Metallic to Ron Hagelin. So, yeah, and
10 to 12 car gaps are becoming 12 to 15 car gaps.
Yeah, like in the case that you're talking about there, of it's time to go, but do I have anything to work with? The lap times, it doesn't look like that's necessarily the case. I mean, this late into a run, how in the world do you find even an extra 100th? Because when it comes to short track racing, people may not understand, unless you've got a tire advantage, it's almost like Dover, it's like Phoenix. You're not trying to cut down tenths, you're trying to cut down hundredths, and those hundredths will then translate to tenths as the run goes on. But as you get further into a run, it's hard to do that because your tire grip is consistently going away.
And I have to credit that to the pace Jeff Supta is putting down on this final run. He's making you use your stuff, and when it's time to close it up, well, guess what? It's just not there. Here, the difference maker could come. He's running up on some significant lap traffic for the first time. It's about 4 cars. Again, as you mentioned, Randy Waugh, Jeffrey Elliott, I think Rodney Sullins is up there, and then one more ahead. Oh, Brian Schilling. And Chris Elliott in the 09. They're there, and that might give Grant a chance to close up this gap. And it's up as we speak. Ooh. There's the 21 off the wall once, but twice.
Good save there. A little assistance from that outside wall.
But and look what has happened.
Yeah, Grant just closed the gap up by about, 2/3 of what it was before. It's now 4 car lengths back to the 88, and more traffic for Jeff Supta to have to deal with here.
10 to go. Jeffrey Elliott moves to the inside, and he's not going to have any part of this.
Jeff Crivello came down pit road a couple laps ago and has retired from the race, so he and John Godfrey, the only 2 drivers out. There you see, first and second. About maybe 5 car lengths the difference, and more traffic up ahead. This takes away that clean air advantage that the Captain America Chevrolet had for a good portion of this run now as well.
Yeah, Grant had it down to 4/10. Jeff's opened it back up to 5, and again, they're overtaking a bunch of traffic, but Grant is having to deal with it as well, and how he catches them on the exit, which is a little bit of a disadvantage.
Looking ahead, that's the leader. As we're on board with Grant Wesley, made his way by a trio of race cars right there, including Rodney Sullins and Glenn Harris, Chris Elliott.
He's got clean sailing here now with 8 laps to go.
Wesley goes for the pass on Elliott here. Looks for a mono-e-mono. You can see there is some more traffic up ahead there. Drivers on the tail end of the lead lap. The question is, will Supta catch them before we end up getting to the checkered flag? Bob LaChance, Terry Bombard, Jim Glaude in that group.
Grant's using every inch of the track that he can, trying to do something to close it down. He's maintaining right now, but it's just not enough at this point.
Grant, up to this point, has led the most laps, 54 circuits out in front, but when Supta crosses the line here, this will be his 54th lap led, so next time by, he would take the most laps led moniker here for tonight at North Wilkesboro, and he is indeed going to catch this traffic here, and it's a bunch of it. Could be an opportunity for Grant to close up once again.
Yep, Jeff's now got Terry Bombard by the next car, but Grant is still having to contain with the 51 of Bob LaChance.
Caution! I think I just saw out.
There, yep, Jeffrey Elliott. I see the 56 involved. The yellow flag is out, and the secondary contact.
Oh,
and the leaders are coming up on it.
And Supta just made contact with Jeffrey Elliott. The back straightaway is littered with cars. Dave Robbins, Terry Bombard, Jim Glaude were all sideways. That's the second wreck tonight that Supta has been out in front and caught a little tail end of the incident that happened at the tail end of the lead lap.
This is truly going to get interesting with this new feature with the XE. The question is, will we get one to go? Will we get two to go?
Oh boy. Let's try and figure out what brought out this caution at a very pivotal moment, less than 10 laps to go.
Looks like right there, the 56 coming in and just unloaded on him, and around he went. He had damage from a couple earlier incidents, may have contributed to it, but yep, she just unloaded on him and around he went.
In the middle of the track. And then you got Dave Robbins pulling low to avoid. I think he may have ended up clipping the 72. And there you saw the hit for Jeff Supta. Now, he came to pit road under the first yellow when he made contact with John Godfrey, and we kind of questioned, was he coming down pit road to repair that damage, or was he trying to do something different on tires? I doubt we're going to see him come to pit road here, but was there any damage sustained or not is going to be the big question mark.
It looked like a good enough hit to have damage. The question is it going to be damage enough in what's looking like it's going to be a one-lap shootout? We'll find out shortly here.
Yeah, looks like Jim Glaude got clipped by Dave Robbins. There's Grant Wesley snaking his way on through.
Looks like the lights have stayed on. Well, looks like we're going to be official.
Oh boy. And we just had some technical difficulties here on this end, so give us a quick second. We will try and get the feedback up here.
No worries, they're pacing around right now.
So
looks like we are going to be official.
So what we weren't able to cover there that I was going to try and do was the caution came out. It was raced back. Did Wesley get through that traffic, and did he lead them back there to the caution?
He's being scored in second place.
Okay.
So it looks like Jeff is indeed going to be your winner. They've taken the white flag.
Yep, I wasn't able to see quickly enough there when we had the feed go down who got through that traffic despite the contact there for Supta, if he was able to still bring them back to the start-finish line or not. But apparently that is the case.
I'm verifying it right now.
All right, we've got our feedback up here. Fortunately, this didn't happen with us racing green to the checkers, so that would have been an absolute bummer.
You would have had to heard me describe it. That would have been horrible.
Sean Prime Radio Network.
There'd be no ratings. But yep, Jeff did get by and was able to make it back to the checkered flag.
So Jeff Supta
to take the yellow.
Adventurous coast to coast here tonight. Pole to win, as he will take the checkered flag here at North Wilkesboro, his first win of the season. He was top of the charts in the practice sessions, top of the charts in qualifying, and closes it out P1 in the finishing results.
Doing his best Kyle Larson impression as yesterday.
Wesley's going to bring it home in second. Good comebacks for Nick Gunther and Jeremy Jeffries, who are going to finish in third and fourth here tonight after they had strong showings in the early going, but got bit on pit road strategy, untimely yellows there just prior to the first stage conclusion. Jeff Supta, no surprise, had the fastest lap of the night as well. And now a little Alan Kulwicki Polish victory lap.
I like that.
I don't know why, but I see the Captain America livery on this machine, and I see him doing a burnout, and I'm thinking he's in the car saying, I could do this all day. So Jeff Supta, who came into this race second in points, 4 points out of the top position of the standings. Potentially, of course we have to wait for all the stage points to get calculated, could be the points leader going into the wild card race at Coca-Cola Superspeedway next week.
Trying to remember after his early pit stop off topic where he finished at the halfway, lap 60.
I don't remember. I think he was back up in the top 10, but I don't recollect the exact position he was running. I know that Josh finished third.
Tell you here in a second.
We'll take a look here at the finishing results. There are a couple of drivers that you're not going to see on the grid here, unfortunately, because of the issue we had with the feed going down. 23rd position is Jeffrey Elliott, and 26th is going to be John Godfrey. But you see where the rest of the drivers finished here, with Supta the winner, Metallic in second, Gunther bringing it home in third. Actually, is there a mistake on this feed here? Did Grant get a black flag late?
That may happen sometimes when
Yeah.
they come back under caution.
So actually it would have been Supta the winner, Grant Wesley second, and Metallic in third. Gunther and Jeremy Jeffries would have gotten fourth and fifth place. Ron Hagel in sixth, Dave Melson in seventh, Frank Rivard eighth, Colin Flick ninth, and Brian Schilling would complete the top 10. A lot of drivers right there I just listed off. Hagelin, Rivard, Flick really needed good runs here tonight after struggles last week at Kansas. Good debut there for Nick Gunther, coming back to finish in fourth. Then Grant Wesley would have jumped up to second, so that would actually put Dante Ricky in 11th, Andre Charest in 12th. Last car to finish on the lead lap. Ronald Lucet, Bob LaChance, Terry Bombard, they had a great battle going on there for 13th on back, as they were also trying to give way to the leaders, trying to pass them in the closing stages. Chris Elliott will get 16th, 17th place for Randy Waugh, Jim Glaude 18th, Dave Robbins 19th. Farrell finishes 2 laps down in 20th. Rodney Sullins, after his podium finish last week, 21st tonight here at Kansas. Glenn Harris in 22nd. Jeffrey Elliott did not reach the conclusion. He was 23rd. Cy Jones 11 laps down in 24th. And then Jeff Crivello and John Godfrey 25th and 26th also did not reach the end of this race, finishing it behind the wall.
I tell you, is just a typical Wilkesboro race. We had a whole bunch of cautions. Cautions breed cautions often, and then we had a great long green flag run, setting up a close finish there at the end. And it was at halfway. I look back, Jeff Supta finished second, so almost a max points night for Mr. Supta. Grant Wesley was your halfway leader, and Josh Metallic right there in third place again. So he's going to be up there as well.
It could be a tie for the points lead, potentially. Maybe 1 point difference between those two going into next week. We'll have to see. And boy, nothing better than having a close battle for the top of the point standings when you go to a super speedway where that position could change every single lap. So that'll be a fun one, a fun storyline to follow when we get into next week. But let's now, as we head into our FRN post-race wind down, let's dial up our podium finishers here tonight. Let's kick things off with the driver that came in here tonight as the points leader, driver the number 39, Josh Metallic.
User was moved to your
Hey
channel.
Josh, it's Sean and Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
I do.
Wild race here tonight. Obviously, tires coming into play at the forefront of the strategy, but kind of a little bit of a tale of two races, I guess. Early portion of this race, we had a decent long green flag run, but then some cautions near the halfway point, having to kind of balance out whether you want the stage points or you maybe want to get the fresh tires in case we go into a long run for the second half, and then that long run to the checkers. We saw last week you cashed in on the stage points. That's why you came into tonight here as the points leader. Looked like that was the goal here again this evening, but you were able to also maintain the track position and bring it home on the podium tonight.
Yeah, I don't. I'm always the guy that forgets that it's halfway until my spotter says so, and I'm like, oh crap, I should have not pitted, 5 laps ago or something. So I've been trying to pay more attention to it this season so far, and it's actually worked. But yeah, fun race. I usually struggle really bad with saving tires. I think a couple of faster guys had problems with pit issues, wrong strategy, whatnot. But I'll take a third, even if it's a half track behind Supta. I just don't know how to save the tires at this particular track more so than others, but it's fun track. Short tracks are fun. They don't like me as much as I like them, but had a good time.
So I was asking Sean here before we came on had took the green flag during our pre-race. A driver's mentality. Are you racing the drivers around you, or are you driving the racetrack? Sounds like you were doing the latter rather than the former.
Yeah, I started kind of just riding. I wanted to be, within the top five if I could, and then I wanted to follow the guys that I know are fast. Grant and Supta are two of the fastest guys here, so I kind of burned up my stuff just trying to see how they drive it. Um, and then I saw I had like a 4 or 5 second gap to the people behind me. At that point, I said, "This is trending green to the finish." So I started going into massive conservation mode for the right front because if I'd kept that pace up that they did, I would have been in the wall, blown tire or something. So yeah, at times I was riding, at times I was trying to push it and keep a good pace with them.
What did you think of the long run there at the end there, Josh? That we were looking at the top four were pretty evenly spaced at one point, about almost 10 to 12 car lengths apart as we were approaching that, 15 to go mark. Did you feel at that point with the pace that seemed like Jeff was setting out there that when it came time to try to close those gaps up from Grant to him and from you to Grant, et cetera, that it was going to be able to be done? Was there anything there to use? We were speculating that all night. Had you guys been running such a blistering pace that when it came time to see if you had saved anything and try to close up to Jeff or to Grant, that there wasn't much there?
Yeah, I was trying to keep pace but not go any faster, not use my stuff up. I saw Grant, dirt tracking at a couple different turns. I said, man, he's really overdriving it. I'll get him before the end of this thing. And then he just drove off into the sunset with Supta. So I thought I was doing a decent job, but they just did a better job. I don't know where I'm missing it at. It's annoying to see, but again, top three, I'll definitely be happy because usually I've been lapped here before, just not able to keep any type of pace or tires on my car. So it's improvement. So I'll take that as a win.
Again, you were holding your own there. You really were. It was Grant was the beneficiary of Jeff getting caught up behind a lap car there, and he made a significant advancement on that one turn, and that's what got him a little bit closer.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Things again, second race in a row where, it was pretty uneventful. Stayed near the front, didn't have any mishaps on pit road or speed penalties. The worst part was qualifying, kind of messed that up a little bit and got up to the top five and pretty much stayed there, rode there, just tried to stay within striking distance, see how they drive it. And it all worked out. I know it's kind of hectic at times. It was pretty uneventful for me most of the night.
Hey, sometimes an uneventful race at a short track is a good thing. You don't want to be part of all the mayhem that takes place that comes part and parcel with short track racing. Solid night you put together here. Garnered some more stage points. Bring it home on the podium. Congratulations on the job well done. Some great momentum going into a super speedway. We know you're really strong at those. We'll be debuting Coca-Cola Super Speedway next week on the schedule. Before we let you go, Josh, floor is yours for thank you sponsors and shoutouts.
Appreciate it. And obviously, you guys doing the broadcast. I'm glad we're doing Mondays. Gives other tracks and shows what we can do besides run 3 wide, sometimes 4 wide. Short tracks and intermediates are just as good to me. So glad we're broadcasting. Glad you two are doing it in the booth. Jeremy for adminning with Prime on Mondays, and the other admins, Souped on Wednesdays, and my cohorts on Thursday, Rodney Solons, Tim Nofsker, obviously Dave Cannon. I think he had a hand in this thing being broadcast. And all the drivers. We had darn near 30 guys show up, on a Monday night. So it was pretty good race overall. So appreciate everyone that puts it on and all the people that show up.
Well, Josh,
Good job, Grant. Souped on the win, too. Sorry.
Josh Metallic, he finishes third place here tonight. Came in the points leader. Looks to leave the points leader. We'll have to wait till everything's calculated. Congratulations on the great run here tonight. Back-to-back great runs to start out the season. And best of luck next week at Coca-Cola.
Thanks, guys.
See if we can get a hold of our second place finisher here this evening, Grant Wesley.
User was moved to your channel.
Hey, Grant, it's Sean and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Hey, I got you.
We were talking just moments ago with Josh Metallic, and he said you were dirt tracking it around a couple of those corners here tonight, letting that thing hang out. Got some really good speed in that 88 machine tonight that brought you home to a staged victory and a runner-up finish. Looked like the gap was really opening up there in the closing stages, but then when the 11 encountered traffic, you were able to close up just a little bit every single lap, got it down to about 3 car lengths. If that traffic had continued and we had stayed green, did you have anything for Jeff to get this victory?
Yeah, well, first off, anyone that knows me knows I love dirt track racing. So, yeah. Actually, I felt like, man, Jeff was fast tonight. He was definitely tough to contend with. I feel like that last run, I was kind of surprised that it went green. I was kind of waiting on the caution for a while, and then it just never came. So we caught those lap cars, and Supta seemed like every time he'd pass a lap car, he'd catch it at just the wrong spot and have to check up, or he'd have some kind of an issue. And I was able to capitalize a few times, and I was saving just a little bit. I think I might have saved a little more than he did. I think I had the better tire there to end, but man, this is such a tough track to pass on. It was going to be no easy feat to get around them, even if I did get to them. Ultimately, whenever that last caution came out, I just, man, that was crazy. I just didn't want to run anybody over winning a race, but yeah, that was close. Congrats to Jeff on the win.
We were talking about coming into this race, how important stage points are, and Sean not only pointed out how important they are for the Ultimate Championship, but for the regular season championship as well. You made the play to keep the track position as we had a couple of those yellows just before the halfway point to be able to get those 10 points, that valuable playoff point as well. But an opportunity for some other drivers to maybe kind of flip the stage there, maybe give up some points and try driving their way through the field if we win green to the end. So how much of a struggle mentally is that for you when you end up having cautions come out just inside of that window, about maybe 10 to go for the stage finish?
Oh yeah, that's always stressful. At tracks like this where tire wear is so great, it's a little bit easier to know, just go ahead and take that rubber. But yeah, it's like, come on, caution. If it's going to come, just come right after that cut line of the halfway point. So here on Mondays, having that halfway point, that's an awesome addition to the Monday night deal. And it's definitely high on my priority list every race.
Yeah, for sure. We saw how that played out a little bit last season in the championship. We used those as an advantage. On that last run tonight, we were guessing, and I probably was pronosticating wrongly, but thinking that you guys were spaced about 10 to 12 car lengths apart, and that you were content with letting Jeff lead at that point, going into the stretch until it got down to go time. And as you said, you were saving a little. You got the benefit of him getting caught up with lap traffic to close that gap. But did you think, once with the pace he had been setting that whole time, did you think that there was going to be anything more there? Had we had more time to run?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I felt like I might have had the better tire at the end. I definitely felt like I had the better car. But Jeff is so good here. I mean, anyone that runs RTG knows how tough he is on these short tracks. I don't know how he gets the car to rotate the way he does, but man, that thing is quick every time. I was sure going to give it a college try, but who knows what would have happened.
It was entertaining to watch you, sir. It was good out there. Jeff he won here last time, and he gained. He didn't qualify. I forget what the story was there, but he went 21st to first.
Well, Grant, a great run for you here tonight. As we said, picked up that stage victory. You bring it home in the second position. Fourth in points coming into this evening. It's going to be really close, I think, amongst 3, 4, 5 drivers when we get to a racetrack where it's going to be very close on the racing surface. We're going to see you guys double, 3. It can hold 4. I don't know if you guys will tempt the waters for that when we get to Coca-Cola Superspeedway next week, but looking forward to seeing that points battle continue here in the regular season. Before we let you go, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Yeah, first off, thank you FRN for taking the time here on a Monday night to highlight some of these talented drivers here at RTG on some of these intermediate tracks and short tracks and road courses and all the different facets of racing. It's pretty cool stuff. So I'm really happy to see that. Thanks to the owners here, David Cannon, Sean Prime, for giving us a great place to race. The admins here, once again, Sean Prime and Jeremy Jeffries. You can't say enough nice things about those people, and especially Jeremy, everything he does behind the scenes. Just thanks a lot for that. Thanks to my teammates with XFM, my friends and family for watching, and my girlfriend Brittany.
Grant Wesley, second place here tonight at North Wilkesboro Speedway. Great start to the season for him as well. Great run last week at Kansas, and he'll look to continue this momentum heading into the Super Speedway race next week at Coca-Cola. Congrats on the great run tonight.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Grant Wesley bringing it home
User
in
was moved out
second.
of
I
your
specifically told him only 4 wide, Sean. I didn't tell him that track can actually hold him 6 wide, and so I don't know if they want to test the wires of that next week or not, but it can hold it. The track's wide enough that it can hold it. We might see something like that next week. We'll have to wait and find out. Now, we're going to be talking here in just a moment with our race winner, Jeff Supta. However, unfortunately, last week we did not highlight the winner of the Barebones Challenger race, and that was Doug Cady. Tonight, we're going to get an opportunity to talk with the winner of the Challenger race. He brought it home tonight in the 8th position, came into this one 6th in the Challenger points. Colin Flick is your Challenger winner here tonight, and we're going to dial him up right now.
User was moved to your
Hey,
channel.
Colin, it's Sean and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yep, I gotcha.
Well, man, first off, congratulations. A 1 in the win column here on the Challenger side tonight. Solid top 10 run, and we were talking just moments ago with Josh Metallic, and he said it kind of seemed like an uneventful race. And I said, hey, when it's at a short track, a calm race, a kind of an uneventful race, that's a good thing. And seemed like that was the case for you here tonight. Kind of running in the latter half of the top 10 all evening long, bringing home with a solid 8th place finish. More importantly, that car in one piece. Describe what it was like for the 120 laps for this 95 machine here tonight.
At parts today, it was pretty calm, but it wasn't completely calm. There's a couple times where we were racing around together. It was a little bit nerve-wracking, but yeah, we made it out with a mostly clean car. I hit the wall a couple times, you know how it is, short track. But we came out clean. We stayed up in the top 10 all day. Everybody was struggling a little bit with the front end trying to spin around, and that's how these cars handle. But my car in the long run was pretty good, so I was able to maybe pick off 1 or 2 guys from where I start off. My biggest problem was that whenever I restarted on the top, I just could not get going compared to some of the other guys. But every time I was on the bottom, I ran pretty good. So all in all, great day for this 95 machine. New sponsor, Royal Purple, for this season. So it's great to have them in the top 10 this week. So
You've been here before. You won the Barebone Challenger Championship 1 season ago. But last week, didn't quite get the season kicked off the way you wanted to, brought it home in the 21st position. So how important was it here tonight to just have a good, solid, consistent run, try and gain some of those points back here early on in the season?
Oh, it was very important. I just needed a little bit of confidence boost. That the Kansas race was a little bit of a mess for me, but I think we figured it out here at North Wilkesboro. So can't wait for next week. Where are we at next week? Hold on. Let me check.
We're at the Coca-Cola Super Speedway there, Colin, and great run. I like that Royal Purple machine. It's a sharp-looking ride. You also brought it home ninth at the halfway point, so you're going to get a couple points for in the kitty for the halfway stage points as well. So a good, consistent run. Saying you did it at Wilkesboro, that's a confidence booster for sure. This is a challenging track, no matter how you shake it. So well done, sir.
Thank you.
Colin, a great run here tonight for you. Top 10, solid top 10 run tonight, as Sean said. Garner some stage points as well. Going to climb you up not only in that Challenger Championship, so you look for back-to-back championships in that regard, but also going to climb you up early on here in the overall point stands as well, as you look to fight for a playoff position. Before we let you go, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Thank you just to the league owners. Just having a great league here, run. Everybody's mostly clean, and we all just respect each other here most of the time. So it's just great. That's why I've stuck around for I think 5 seasons. It's a great series. I'd recommend it to anybody who likes racing and NASCAR and thinks they can keep it clean. This is the league for you.
Colin Flick brings it home in the 8th position. He is your Barebones Challenger winner here tonight at North Wilkesboro. Congratulations once again. Best of luck next week at the high banks of Coca-Cola Super Speedway. And let's see if we can now go down to Victory Lane, dial up tonight's race winner. First win on the season for Jeff Supta.
User was moved to your channel.
Hey Jeff, it's Sean and Seth here in the FRN booth. You got us?
Yes, I do.
Well, man, I'll tell you what. We talked about it coming into tonight. You were top of the board in practice, top of the board in qualifying. Starting on the pole position, Sean alluded to you were the defending winner the last time we were here at this venue. And it kind of looked like on paper this 11 car was going to be up front all night long. That wasn't the case. We saw you actually come to pit road under that first yellow, and I got to ask, we saw you get a little bit of contact with some of those drivers at the tail end of the field in that wreck, little damage maybe to that left front quarter panel. Is that what drew you to pit road, or were you just trying something different on a tire strategy?
No, I got pretty bad damage. It took about 10 seconds extra when they were fixing it. So no, I had damage and I needed to get it done early.
So something I asked Sean during pre-race was, how do you kind of rein it back, the aggression, when you know you have a fast race car and you're back in traffic, you know that you can make your way to the front, but you can't do it within 2 laps, 3 laps, 5 laps, maybe not even 10 laps. You got to be very methodical in it. And Sean talked about patience and discipline. We saw you exude both of those as you were able to work your way forward. This is not an easy track to pass at, so how were you able to do that? We know the speed was in the race car, but how were you able to do it in terms of picking your spots?
Well, what I had was I had to wait for it to settle down, maybe 15 laps in, and then I would just work on one car at a time. And if there was a gap between the next car and me, I would run that real hard to catch them. And then again, I would just take my time and keep poking, letting them know that, I'm quick and, you need to move.
Oh, Jeff, I tell you, we talked in the beginning of the night, your domination here in season 62 and how you came from 21st place to win it and led the last 5 laps of the only 6 laps that you led the entire race. Tonight you decided to put a little extra adventure into it, as you say. I'm pretty sure, that you set a heck of a pace on that long run going to the end before the final caution, and the gap between you and Grant and Josh and Ron was staying consistent and growing a little. And when it came down to go time, you got caught up in the lap traffic there, and Grant was able to eat into that significantly. Were you worried that you were going to maintain that pace, all the way to the checkered flag? Was it going to hang in for you? Did you know that's about as hard as you could run and make it all that way? Is that what the plan you were on?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was doing. That was the easiest I ran all night, was that run, except for me the first lap to clear Grant, make sure he didn't get by me. But yeah, that whole run, I was probably 2/10 slower than where I could have been doing. So I backed off early and I got back in the gas late. So I was going to run that pace all the way to the end. It seemed to be working. I liked the full second between me and Grant. And then once I got out like that, there was no need to keep beating on it just in case yellow came out. So I just kept a nice distance, tried to keep it about a second between me and Grant. I knew he was saving, so I had to do the same.
Yep, he said he definitely had the extra tires there for, to try to do some battle when he got there. And I got to say, hats off to you. It was just a total domination performance again for you tonight. Well done.
Thank you.
Well, Jeff, you end up getting the most laps led here tonight. You go coast to coast, pole to win, pick up your first win of the season, clinch yourself a spot in the playoffs with that as well, and keep yourself in the forefront in that battle for the points lead in the regular season championship heading into Coca-Cola Speedway next week. Congratulations on the job well done here tonight. Before we let you get back to your celebration, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Um, uh, didn't think about it. I did do a Polish victory lap, so by a Polak. So I don't know how many other Polish people are here. So it suits when I do a Polish victory lap. Just thanks to RTG and all the guys. Everybody was really, really good about giving room. Even the lappers, even though it looked like it was frustrating, they were very good in the long run. So I just want to thank all the drivers for a good race.
Well, that's Jeff Supta. He started out the season 6th at Kansas. He's in victory lane here tonight at North Wilkesboro Speedway, and he'll look to continue this momentum heading into next week in our third race of the season at Coca-Cola. Congrats on the win here tonight, Jeff. Best of luck here the remainder of this regular season.
Thanks, Seth and John.
User was moved out of your channel.
Jeremy Jeffries wins the season opener. Jeff Supta answers with a victory here tonight. It's wide open next week when we get to Coca-Cola Super Speedway, kind of the old moniker in a Super Speedway, if you're in it, you can win it. But you brought up earlier tonight, Sean, about what Jeff was able to do here the last time we were here. Started outside the top 20, worked his way up to eventually win. I kind of think here tonight it could have been two entirely different stories with Supta had he not had that earlier damage and had to come to pit road in the early stages. I feel that obviously he could have adhered to what he learned the last time we were here and working his way through traffic, but no two races are ever the same. And I almost wonder if him having to, in the early going of this race, kind of feel out the field, figure out where to make passes with traffic ahead of him that he knew he was faster than, if that might have helped him out here in the closing stages when we saw him catch those pockets of drivers on the tail end of the lead lap, trying to maintain the gap back to Grant.
I'll tell you, as Jeff said it, when he saw he had that 1 second, just maintaining there, and just Jeff Supta has the talent, the confidence, and he knew what he could do, and probably what would have been too much for him to try to do at that point, and he just executed a great race plan.
Looking ahead to Coca-Cola Super Speedway, you look at our past two races, and there are drivers that have run well at both our venues so far. Metallic, Supta, Wesley, Jeffries. It's probably going to be between those three for who's going to be leading the points going into that race. We talk about drivers and opportunity to be able to win their way into the playoff system, and really looking at this regular season, if you look at a level playing field opportunity for drivers that we see consistently be able to run in maybe the latter half of the top 10, the top 15 week after week, this is a chance for them to go out there, maybe be able to get a checkered flag and not point their way in, but win their way into the playoffs. With that being said, setting that stage for a debuting racetrack next week, how aggressive a race do you think we're going to see, especially out of those drivers that probably have this circled on the calendar at this is the place where I can show up and I can win?
I tell you, it's about as big an unknown as we've had in a long time. It's first time, we've run the track in the Barebones series. They did run it in the Lightning Truck series either last season or the season before, but they had a rain out, and so they did not end up finishing that race. So it's a challenge. It's a big unknown. I myself do not know what to expect to see. I just know I'm excited to see what's going to happen. And as you said, it can be, these wide open drafting tracks. Somebody who's had a tough start to their season can suddenly find themselves locked into the playoffs with an excellent run and a victory at Coca-Cola.
Well, it is a very fun racetrack. It's fun to drive, and it's fun to watch when drivers are on it as well. So hopefully everybody will tune in next Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to watch that wild card race. Hey, it's so good of a racetrack that iRacing decided to rebrand it and put it into their sim. So if that's not a recommendation there for that racetrack, I don't know what is. But a wild one here tonight. Short track racing at its best here on a Monday night. Jeff Supta picks up the victory. Colin Flick brings home the win in the challenger side. And a great battle here in the closing stages, able to hold off Grant Wesley to go to victory lane. Going to be close for that points lead going into next week's race. Hope you guys will join us for that. We appreciate tuning into our coverage here tonight. My thanks once again to Sean for joining me here this evening. Cannot wait for what we've got on tap next week as we continue on this regular season.
Should be an exciting one, and again, I'll apologize for all that noise in the background. Pretty much the entire time this race has been going on, I've been under some type of severe weather alert. I need my built-in weatherman, Dante Ricky, to be giving me a heads up, but we were rocking and rolling here tonight while they were rocking and rolling on the track.
Absolutely. Well, hey, you talked about a potential storm threat, and hey, at least it didn't knock out the power. We had you here for this whole broadcast, so that was good. Thanks again to everybody for tuning in. We've got a lot more on tap here this week. Wednesday night, we've got the Esports Oval League Grind Cup Series at 9 p.m., as they're going to be doing their throwback race at Darlington Raceway, and then we get race number 2 of the 65th season for the Talladega Challenge Series, as they'll be at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. We had an incredible finish in the season opener last Thursday night, expecting more of the same this Thursday night at 9. But again, for Sean Prime, I'm Seth Cole. Thanks for joining us here this evening. We'll see you guys next Monday night at Coca-Cola Super Speedway, as you've been watching the continuation of the 65th season of the Barebones Racing Series here on FRN, the Flatout Racing Network. Have a great night. We'll see you guys next week.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.